John, were you being deliberately vague when you said the number of Americans was several thousand, or was it because you're not sure of the number?
I think I'm just going to leave it at several thousand right now, Dave.
Well, then tell us why.
Because I think the number is very fluid, and it literally changes nearly by the hour.
It's not more fluid than these 11,000, 37,000.
I'm going to leave it at several thousand right now.
I'm sorry, what? What? I don't mean to laugh, but what? The number's fluid? It changes. Okay, we have a country. The problem right now is we have thousands and thousands, clearly over 10,000 American civilians in that country. That country is mostly controlled by a barbarian horde. We need to get the American civilians out of that country. This is not fluid. Those are facts. But again, Mr. Producer, in a second, I'm going to want you to play this again. Doesn't this remind you of a conversation you'd have with your wife if you went golfing with your buddies and had too many beers, or a conversation your kid would have with you if they accidentally broke something and didn't want to tell you about it? I mean, the situation's fluid. I mean, we don't have to, look, there are a lot of ins, a lot of outs. We don't have to go into that. Listen to this again.
David.
John, were you being deliberately vague when you said the number of Americans was several thousand, or was it because you're not sure of the number?
I think I'm just going to leave it at several thousand right now, Dave.
Well, then tell us why.
Because I think the number is very fluid, and it literally changes nearly by the hour.
It's not more fluid than these 11,000, 37,000.
I'm going to leave it at several thousand right now.
That's not an answer. This is part of the reason why Joe Biden's job approval rating is in free fall. What's going on? Okay, they bungled the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Clearly. All right, clearly. Look, it's a huge scandal. It's a huge foreign policy embarrassment. Yes, it's all those things. We've covered all that before. We know all that. Let's set that aside. That's in the past. We can't undo that. They screwed up every part of the withdrawal. We left our American civilians there. We left billions of dollars of our equipment there. It's now in the hands of the Taliban. All that sucks, all right? You screwed up. You spilled the milk. Okay, we can't unspill the milk. We got to figure out how to clean it up now. And we can't get straight answers, not from anybody. We still have civilians there, lots of them, American citizens. And let me clear something up right now. American citizens come first for America. That's how nations should run. Doesn't mean you can't care about other people. Doesn't mean you can't help people out. Doesn't mean you can't do smart things. But Mexicans, citizens, should be number one for the Mexican government. Canadian citizens should be number one for the Canadian government. German citizens, number one for the German government, so on and so forth. We elect these people. It's their job to worry about us first. American citizens first and foremost. And not only are our people not able to get out right now, the situation around the airport, the one place of the country we still control, is so chaotic. The U.S. Embassy, they're advising Americans, don't even try to get there. Hey, you know how the airport's the only way out? And you know how we said we're not coming out to get you? You have to get to the airport on your own? We're going to take all that back. Don't even attempt to get to the airport on your own. The American people right now have no faith in their government. And they shouldn't. You can't get a straight answer on anything. It doesn't look like they're even slightly interested in improving how we look in front of the world and improving the situation in Afghanistan. Each and everything we see out of Afghanistan right now, out of our president, out of our administration, it all looks political. And you see, that's the problem. It all looks political. Here's Joe Biden still defending his decision.
Let me tell you, you're sitting in Beijing or you're sitting in Moscow. Are you happy we left? They'd love nothing better for us to continue to be bogged down there, totally occupied with what's going on. So the idea, I think that history is going to record This was the logical, rational, and right decision to make.
Which, of course, it wasn't. Everyone knows that. Getting out of Afghanistan, yeah, we should have got out of about 2002. Of course, getting out of Afghanistan was the right thing. You take your civilians out first. You either take your equipment out too or destroy it, then you leave. There's a way to go about things. And just so everyone understands, the reason they didn't, it's not because they didn't know. They knew the civilians were there. They knew the equipment was there. Remember back to what we were just talking about, no love of country? They didn't care about getting out of Afghanistan. They don't care about history or doing the right thing. They cared about politics. The 20th anniversary of September 11th is coming up. They wanted a political win. They looked over at Afghanistan and they didn't see our troops. They didn't see our equipment. They didn't see our place on the world stage because they don't think in those terms. You think in those terms. They looked at Afghanistan and thought to themselves, what would look good in a commercial for September 11th? That anniversary's coming up, and they made a political decision because everything is political now. And the world's laughing at us. I mean, you remember the iconic photo from World War II, the Marines in Iwo Jima raising the American flag on Mount Suribachi. You remember that? Yeah, that's the one on the right you're looking at right now. The one on the left, that's the Taliban wearing, obviously, our gear, mocking us, hoisting up their flag. I know that's not the end of the world. It's a social media post, right? But we are sitting there in country with 6,000 of our troops, and they still think we're so weak and pathetic. They're openly mocking us repeatedly. That's how far we've fallen. And somebody has to go down, right? You and I, we have to have accountability at all times. Oftentimes it should be personal accountability, most of the time, right? All the 10 million times I've screwed something up in my life, about 9,999,999 of those were all my fault, 100%. Accountability is how nations thrive. It's how businesses thrive. It's how you thrive in your family. Joe Biden came out, announced he doesn't have any plans to fire anybody. Nobody. Imagine being embarrassed like this and looking around at your entire team and saying, good job, everybody. Yeah, you know what? Everybody gets perfect 10s on their progress reports this year. I think we really nailed this. That's how bad things are. Hey, thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.